You're now listening to a Bobby Johnson beat. Hey, my main bitch and my savage man, I can get 2 for. Rather pull me up on each of pink. I need to go.
Tune in to Too Much Media.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is a creative mastery channel where we discuss all things creativity and just how to level up your creativity and how all those things that you have as creative endeavors seep into every aspect of your life. Now, let's get into today's video. Today, I'm going to be talking Sinners. Now, I went to go watch Sinners so far 2 times. I definitely plan to go see it at bare minimum 2 more times. The movie was so well made, perfectly executed. And when I say perfectly executed, I mean on every note of what a film should be. That means cinematography. That means, music, that means acting, directing, dialogue. The dialogue in this film was done, it was mastery. Later on, when they teach classes of script writing and dialogue writing, Sinners will definitely be heavily talked about for the near future. But since the film was just so deep and so layered, I feel as though one video with me discussing all the things I noticed in the film is gonna be just overdone. Like, it's gonna just feel too much, so it'll be hard to digest and understand, as well as it's gonna be so long. And I feel like sometimes when content is a little too long, it just is a bit boring. So I did try to record a full breakdown of the movie, and when I'm telling you guys, I got only halfway through the movie breakdown and I was already 1 hour and 45 minutes in to recording. It was just so long. And then even me editing it, I was just like, this is too much. Like, it's too deep almost. Like, I don't even know if everyone's gonna be able to follow all the dots that I'm connecting, as well as me having to keep my train of thought and energy for that long was just getting exhausting. So I'm gonna do a little Sinners series. This will be the first of many. I'm gonna keep coming back with Sinners content for a little while now. So if you enjoy this, make sure you like the video so that when my next Sinners content comes out, YouTube pops it up on your algorithm. Also subscribe, comment, do all the things so we can build a community here on this channel. All right, into the video. So, in Sinners, one of the main things I noticed when I watched it the second time was the names. In the first time that I watched it, I was struggling to digest everybody's names and and the fact that each name had a meaning that was a deeper meaning in the film. But the first time I watched it, it's really hard to understand Sinners if you only watch it once. This is a movie you have to watch minimum 2 times to understand. And I'm sure the next couple times that I watch it, I'm going to even understand it more and more. But yeah, minimum 2 times. Because the second time is when I really feel like I was like, oh, okay. But the first time, I was definitely just enjoying the film. Of course, I left loving the film. But I feel like I only got I just got an overview understanding. The second time, I was like, whoa, something crazy was done here today. Okay, let's go into the names. First things first, Smoke and Stack. What is the meaning of why they were named Smoke and Stack? I feel like it's important to start with them because they're the main characters of the movie. Before you understand the name Smoke and Stack, the problem is you need to understand what they mean to the film. When Smoke and Stack arrive anywhere, they symbolize money, okay? Because this is a Black film and they're trying to figure out, it's more to tell the story of the Black people in America. You're supposed to understand what do Smoke and Stack symbolize to the black people in America? They symbolize money because they are the gangsters of the film. They're two gangsters who are from Mississippi who leave Mississippi to go to Chicago and then make their way back after hitting a lick in Chicago. So they symbolize money because the reason they even came back to Mississippi is because they got money in Chicago. Every time they go somewhere, they don't move without the intention of how they're going to make money. That's their main concern in life. That's their main objective everywhere they go. If Smoke and Stack make a move somewhere, if they come to see you, that means money's involved. They don't come unless they're thinking about money, okay? So whenever you see them, think money. Now, if you're thinking about money and then you name somebody Smoke and Stack, how can the words Smoke and Stack relate to money? The reason Smoke and Stack relate to money is you have to understand that they're twins, right? But if you watch the film, you see Annie call Smoke Elijah, right? Besides Annie, no one ever calls Smoke or Stack anything other than Smoke or Stack. They never use any other names to refer to them except for Annie. Annie's the only person who calls Smoke Elijah. The only other time you hear Smoke or Stack's real name is also when Stack says his own name and he says, "I'm Elias, motherfucking like he's on some like, you know, piping up shit when they lock him in the room after he turns into a vampire, right? He calls himself Elias and he calls him Elijah. The name is the same. The reason is being that Smoke and Stack are the same person. They are twins, but they are twins because Elijah, the actual guy who is Smoke and Stack, is a Gemini. So because he's a Gemini, they represent him as two people instead of just having him be one person. Now, what is the reason that Smoke and Stack are separated as twins and as Geminis? It's because the necklace that Annie makes for Elijah is in order to separate Smoke and Stack so that there's two versions of him to keep him safe because he's a Gemini and his two versions were at war. So she made him that so he can separate the two versions of himself in order to keep himself calm and so that one version of him can watch out for the other. That is why when you look at Smoke and Stack, Stack wears a tie, but Smoke doesn't. That's because Stack is tied to Smoke. Smoke wears the necklace that Annie made him because that is what separates them and that is what also binds them. So he has to wear that black necklace and Stack wears a tie because Stack is also the wild one, the unruly one, the one who doesn't really, go buy things on the straight and narrow. So he has to be on a leash, aka a tie. That's why he's tied to Smoke. That's why they need each other. They have to stay together. They have to be around each other because they're tied to each other, okay? Now, let's go back to the name factor of Smoke and Stack. The reason that they're called Smoke and Stack is because Elijah's focus is making money, right? Whenever Elijah needs to think of how to make money, he needs to smoke. That's what calms him. That's why Smoke is the calm one, the more thinking one, logical one, trying to figure out how to get things done. So he needs to smoke to figure out how to get to Stacks. That's why Stack's name is Stack, because he's the Stacks that come after Elijah smokes. Okay, are you getting it? Like, it's Smoke because he smokes all the time, and then it's Stack because he makes money. But that's how he makes money. His natural way of being is Stacks. He's always unruly, kind of like really sly, thinking on the go, always happy, go lucky, doesn't really care about anything. That's kind of his natural way of being. But when he acted like that, his dad would beat him. That's why they say in the movie, Stack always used to get beat when we were younger. Not like Smoke. But when he acts like Smoke, when he's calm, when he's just, serious, acting like how his dad wants him to act, then he doesn't get beat. That's why Smoke doesn't get beat that much, but Stack always gets beat. It's not and I was thinking about that when I was watching the movie. I was like, they're twins. How is one getting beat but not the other? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, it's one thing if they were brothers only, so then one is older than the other, then it makes sense. It's like, okay, because he's the older brother, that's why his dad was always beating him and not the younger brother, because it's like, it's your fault, you're the older one, you're supposed to watch out. But I'm like, no, they're twins. So if one does something stupid, they both did it together. They did it in correlation. They should both be getting in trouble. That doesn't make sense why the dad always picks Stack but not Smoke. And also, they look exactly alike. You know how sometimes parents, if you look like the other parent, and them two have beef, they might not like you. Or if you look like them, then, they project onto you and they get angry at you for resembling them because they hate themselves. So it's like those type of things, you can always understand why a parent picks one child to pick on. But in this case, they're twins, so they look exactly the same. They're twins, so they're the exact same age. They're twins, so none of it made sense as to why the dad would pick Stack but not Smoke. But then, if you think about it, if you think about it as they're one person with two personalities, then you understand it's with that. Whenever Elijah acts like Stack, he gets beat. But when he acts like Smoke, he doesn't get beat. When he's calm, when he's intellectual, when he's straightforward, living on the straight and narrow. Not living on the straight and narrow, because Smoke's still gangster too. But when he's just like more like, up front with things, then he's Smoke. But when he acts like Stack, when he's always, trying to be sneaky, because Stack is really sneaky. Stack is really sly. Stack is always trying to get over on people. That's why, for example, he has sex with Mary, tells her he loves her, says all these beautiful nothings to her, and then dips on her, because that's how he is. He'll just say one thing but knows he's gonna do the complete opposite. He doesn't care how you feel or what's going on. That's why he's always happy. That's why he's always kind of real laid back and smooth with everything, is because he knows that regardless of what he says, he's going to do what he wants. So he's always just kind of smiling and stuff so that people don't see what he actually has coming. That's how Stack always acts. And so when he acts like that, the dad doesn't like it. Think about parents. They're never going to like that aspect, like when you're trying to get over on them and stuff. So that's why he always gets beat when he does all that sly stuff that Stack is always up to. Think about the fact that Stack is the one who turns into a vampire as well, because he's always trying to act sly. He's always trying to get over on people, stuff like that. That's why he's the one who gets got first, because it's like being a vampire, having that type of personality, those two things co-align. Whereas Smoke, he's real straightforward. He's real paying attention to everything. Think about even when the juke jam was happening, Smoke is standing overhead. Smoke is standing on top of the thing, watching everything go on, while Stack is down there, a part of the crowd, dancing amongst everybody. He's always kind of like with the shits, like with the mess and stuff. Even when after he gets bit by the vampire and he tries to convince him to join the vampires, and Stack says, see, no vision. It's like, you never see what I'm trying to do, like being slick, like of acting one way but actually going the opposite way. You always are trying to, go the way that is like so obvious, so like clear. Think about even blue versus red. Blue is very clear. Blue is like, it represents clarity. It represents like more of a scene, like something that you can see through, something that you can like wear with anything, that goes with anything. Think about red. Red is very dominant. Red is very anti. Red is very like, obviously not like the rest, Red is very hard to see through. When stuff get bloody, stuff get mucky, you think more red than blue. Or even the fact that one of them wears gold and the other one wears silver. It's like, think about silver and gold. It's like silver is also more clear. When light hits silver, it shimmers. When light hits gold, it blinds. Like gold is very blinding in sun, you know? That's why Stack is the one that is with the darkness and Smoke is the one with the light. Because when Stack is in the light, he blinds. When Smoke is in the light, it helps, it glows him, it shimmers him, it adds to it, it vibrates him, it vibrates with him. Do you see? That's why their names also go in line. Or think about when the first scene we see them, we only see Smoke, right? And he's smoking. And then slowly the camera pans to Stack. Is because Elijah smoked and now he's in contact with Stack. He needs to smoke. Or think about the fact that at the end of the movie, when Annie says, you want to hold the baby? You got to put that cigarette on him. You got to put that cigarette out. I don't want no smoke to get on him. It's because Elijah is always smoking. And so he's Smoke. And that's how he always made his money. And that's why Annie says, I don't want your blood money. And Stack always wears red. It's because he be smoking and then turns into Stack to make his money. That's how he has to make money. Or think about the fact that Stack's name is Stack. So he always goes towards where the stacks are. And Smoke is the one who turns into Stack because they're the same person. So whenever Smoke looks through a mirror, he sees Stack. Smoke in mirrors. So the whole movie is smoke in mirrors, aka Smoke looking through different mirrors. Do you get it? Like, oh my God, Ryan Coogler did something crazy with this film. I'm trying to tell y'all. It's smoke in mirrors. That's why his name is Smoke. It's because when he looks through mirrors, he sees Stack. And then that's why, too, when he goes to see Annie and she says, I don't know. And he says to Annie, I don't know why you believe in all this voodoo stuff. It doesn't work. It's all BS and stuff. And she's like, well, how do you know all those things that you've been through, all those wars you fought, all those places you've been, that me and all these prayers and hoodoo and mumbo jumbo you don't believe is what's kept you and Stack alive? And he's like, then why didn't it work on my baby? And our baby. Okay, and she says, I don't know, but it worked on you. Okay, I'm going to explain to you how their names show you why it didn't work on the baby, but it worked on him. At the end of the movie, she says, Elijah, you want to hold him? You got to put that cigarette out. I don't want no smoke to get on him. Annie is in love with Elijah, right? So if she's in love with Elijah, she has to be in love with Smoke. Smoke is how he, for the most part, represents himself on a day-to-day life. But because he's someone who's very sure of like needing to get money, like he even says that line of like, the only thing I see in the world that ever has made a difference is power. And the only way you get power is through money. So because that's Smoke's ideology, aka Elijah's ideology, is that the only way for him to make it and to have some sort of life is for him to make money. He thinks he needs Stack, aka the only way for him to get Stack is for him to smoke, right? Annie is in love with Elijah, aka Smoke, who's a very serious, more upfront person. She doesn't like it when he acts like Stack. That's why she calls it blood money, and that's why Stack always wears red. He represents blood. He represents, almonds of like those type of things coming. She doesn't like Stack, and that's why when he said the juke joint, he said this one is Stack's harebrained schemes, because she doesn't like the version of him when he acts like Stack. She likes the version of him when he acts like Smoke. That's the version she likes. So she's in love with Smoke. But she doesn't want any smoke to get on her baby. She said, I don't want no smoke to get on him. The reason she doesn't want any smoke to get on him is because she knows smoke comes with stack. There is no smoke without stack. That's why she puts up with smoke, is because she loves smoke, but she doesn't love stack. So but she understands that smoke needs stack in order to be Elijah. She's in love with him as a whole person, and she understands that she can't have smoke without stack, right? But because she's in love with smoke, but doesn't want smoke on her baby because she knows it comes with stack, that's why the baby couldn't survive. It's because she was repelling the baby while trying to keep the baby. She wants the baby, but not with smoke on it. So she's in love with smoke, but doesn't want any smoke on her baby. So she can't have both. That's why the baby couldn't survive, because she's keeping smoke alive. She's praying for smoke. She's trying to get smoke to survive with stack and all that kind of stuff constantly. So she's in love with smoke, but doesn't want her on her baby. She's praying for smoke to live, but she's also praying that smoke doesn't get on her baby. You can't have both. If smoke lives, the baby can't live. So that's why he has to die in order to be with the baby, and her too, and all that kind of stuff. Is because the baby can't survive. A baby between them two can't survive because Annie is repelling smoke getting on her baby. Okay? Another reason they're named Smoke and Stack is because... Alright. Something stuck in my tooth. Okay. Another reason they're named Smoke and Stack is because, for example, Stack is the one who brings the fire, okay? That's why he's always wearing red, right? He's kind of like the fire. He's more of the crazy twin, the one who is always, gonna turn things up, right? That's why, for example, when they go to the truck where all the ammunition is for the first time, and they open it, the first thing that pops out is a snake, right? I'm not going to say what the snake represents in this video, but I will keep talking about this movie and explain what the snake meant when it pops out of the ammunition truck. But when the snake pops out, Stacks pulls out the knife, throws it to Smoke. Smoke catches it in the air, brings it down, kills it in one shot, throws it back to Stack. Stack wipes off the blood and puts it back on his hip. In that moment, it is another indicator of their names. So, Smoke is Elijah when he is in tune, when he's paying attention, when he's about to start making money, when he's like figuring things out, right? The key to Smoke is Stack, right? So, Smoke, when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Isn't that a common these days? Say, where there's smoke, there's fire. Stack is the fire to Smoke. So when you see smoke, you know fire is coming, aka Stack. And that's why in that moment, Stack has the knife on his hip, throws it to Smoke. Smoke brings down the fire, boom, and then throws it back to Stack. Because Stack is the one who's always the one who's ready to go. Smoke just grabs him whenever they need that. And that's why Smoke is the one who decides when shit actually goes off. That's why he's the one who brings the knife down. Because he's the one who decides when to fire. But Stack is the fire. Okay? Like, think about it like that. You have to think about it like more outside the box. You got to think about it too with a transcendence of time, where it's like what do these words mean when you take out the time period and when you put in the time period. You have to think about both as once. So it's like, okay, when you think about old time, what do you think about when you think Smoke and Stack? But when you think about current modern day Smoke and Stack, what do you think about? So Stacks, you think modern day, you think money, you think a lot of cash, you think building, you think bringing things up, When you think Smoke modern day, what do you think about? You think about smoke. You think about, weed. You think about, cigarettes. You think about fire. You think about, you think about a gun because you got that smoke. You got a gun on you. So if Smoke had a gun on him and that gun is Stack, you think about it like that. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like you have to also kind of think about everything in this movie with double layers. That's why they have twins. It's to make you understand that everything in the movie is a double meaning. So you got to double all the double meanings as well. Like everything is doubled in this movie. That's why it's smoke and mirrors. That's because whenever Elijah wants money, he smokes. And then when he looks through the mirror, he sees Stack. He smokes and sees Stack. So whenever he smokes, he thinks about money. That's why he needs stacks. He smokes and sees stacks. That's why too they make them roll their own cigarettes. If you think about rolling your own cigarettes back in the day, that's probably just a sign of poverty, where it's like, because at the end of the movie, he grabs the cigarettes from the white man, and the white man has pre-rolled cigarettes. He's been rolling his own tobacco leaf this entire film. Stack been rolling for him. Stack always is the one who rolls the cigarettes and the J's and stuff because Smoke and remember that part in the movie where Smoke's like, y'all stressing me out, I need a cigarette, and Stack says, coming right up. Why is Stack the one who always rolls up the cigarettes? It's because you need money to smoke. You can't be broke and always trying to smoke weed. You can't be broke and think you can buy cigarettes. You need money to buy cigarettes. That's why Stack is always the one who rolls it up. Smoke would just smoke it all away. He don't got it like that to always have the, funds. That's why he needs Stack in order to have Smoke. That's why Smoke and Stack can't exist without each other. And that's especially why Smoke dies and Stack doesn't. Is because Stack, you can have Stacks and not smoke. But you can't smoke without Stacks. Do you see? All right. And then also, what was another reason I could tell that what the meaning of their name was? Smoke and Stack, Stack smokes. Stack smokes. Stacks smoke. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. I was talking about how their names are also obvious because of their demeanor, in the way of think about when they first split up. When Smoke says to Sammy, you got to watch out for Stack because he never watches his own back and stuff like that. That's why Stack needs Smoke, because Smoke is the more serious one. Smoke is the more attentive one. But Stack is the one who's kind of always ready. Remember how I mentioned that Stack always wears gold and Smoke always wears silver, and how when you put Stack in the light, when you put gold in the light, it blinds. That's because when you start making too much money, it's very loud. Think about once you have a lot of money, especially in Black community, how we think about what we're going to do once we have money. It's like you start to shine. You start to act like Stack. You start to act up. And think about Stacks like this. When they split up and they say who's going to do each task, Stacks goes to get the musicians. That's because you need money to attract musicians. Musicians represent, Musicians is something that brings in money, right? So that's why Stacks is the one who needs to go. Stacks is the one who's the more crazy, outlandish. That's why he stands up in the train station and starts doing an advertisement right there. He starts like yelling all these like little branding type things of like, for example, he was saying, no, fool, that was funny. Golly, what the heck? Y'all ready to eat? Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stink? Yeah. He's like, y'all ready to eat? Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stink? Like, he just thinks of that on the fly. He starts yelling at everybody, y'all come to the juke joint tonight. We got Battle of the Blues. Woo, come on down. These two are going to be duking it out. Old versus new. This, da, da, da. He starts doing a whole thing inside the train station. That's how Stack acts. Stack is like how he's the one who brings in the money. He attracts money. He attracts the things that are going to bring him money, right? That's how Stack's behavior is. Whereas Smoke, they send him to go get the resources. They send him to go get the, all the market stuff, all the stuff that they're going to need in order to, in order to actually make the money. Once Stack attracts all the money. So Stack attracts the money. Smoke, like brings, does all the like kind of grunt work, the dirty work, the dark work, the stuff that Stack wouldn't want to do, the more serious stuff, he has to go and do that type of stuff. Whereas, Stack is just like having fun, doing whatever. And even if you think about, how Stack versus Smoke treat their ladies. Like, Stack is the one making false promises and leaving, because it's like that's how money works. It's like it comes and it goes. Like, as soon as you spend money, as soon as you use money, you get your use out of money, it goes. You have to keep attracting it back. That's why Mary's always trying to convince Stack. That's why she's always like, you said this, you told me you love me. When do you ever see Annie telling Smoke anything about, you told me you gonna do this for me? Why'd you told me you love me? She never says that. He says it himself. She says, Elijah, he says, I miss you and I love you. Like, immediately. She doesn't need to do that, because that's not how Smoke works. Smoke is more like, it burns. Like, as long as you keep the fire lit, as long as the fire is lit, smoke keeps coming out. You see? And that's how it more works. It's like you just need to keep the fire going with Smoke. Like, he's the one who brings like the tinder, what will bring the fire continuing to come in order for Stack to be able to attract money. Smoke brings the fire. He brings AKA Stacks. He's the one who's always, that's why the both of them together represent money, because Smoke keeps the fire going so that Stack can keep attracting money. That's why it's like Smoke and Stack is correlated with each other. Another thing is, Smoke is also what is proof that they're alive. So if Smoke is not alive, if you don't see smoke when there's fire, is there a fire? Where there's smoke, there's fire. That's why when Smoke dies, Stack has, the only way Stack could survive is as a vampire. Smoke also had to die once Stack died, because there was no more fire, so there could be no more smoke. Smoke is the one who's alive. He's the breath of life in the relationship between Stack and Smoke. If Smoke is not alive, then neither of them can be alive, which is why the only reason why Stack lives is as a dead person. He can live dead. That's why he had to be a vampire. But once Stack was dead, Smoke had to die too, because Stack was the fire. Therefore, with no fire, there's no smoke. You see? And he represents the fact that they are alive, the fact that there is fire. So he's the life between him and Smoke. That's what the key is between them two. Need each other in order to stop. That's why they're tied to each other. That's why Stack has a tie and Smoke has the necklace. And yeah, there's more deeper meanings to Smoke and Stack, and like certain things that are represented post Stack becoming a vampire and stuff. But I don't want to keep talking about all that. I'm gonna, obviously, like I said, I'm gonna make more videos. If you like this breakdown of Stack and Smoke's names, make sure you like the video, comment if you noticed anything interesting about their names from the movie. If you watched the movie, how many times you watched the movie, anything Sinners involved, honestly, y'all comment, because I will read it, all of it. And also, I did want to talk about other names. Like, I understand the meaning for a lot of the other names in the movie as well, but this video has gone on long enough. So I'm going to just make another video where I talk about some of the other characters' names in the movie. So if you got all the way to this point, you know, I fuck with you, appreciate you, really do. Thank you for listening to me babble on about Sinners. Like I said, like the video, comment, you know, make sure you engage with the channel so other creatives can find it. Alrighty, see you.